Hey, Vikings Nation, it's your host, Mike, bringing in a new episode going into week 3. Going to be facing the Houston Texans. Going to be a huge game. It's going to be at US Bank Stadium. Minnesota Vikings coming off that monumental win last week in week 2. It already feels like playoff football. It really does. You know, the Houston Texans are a good football team. We beat a good football team last week. And really, these two teams really mirror each other when you look at what they're trying to do. Before we get into that, let's talk about Kwesi Adolfo-Mensa. What I just want to highlight here is we've talked a lot about KOC and Brian Flores and that whole coaching staff. But what's kind of missed is, what Kwesi's done in his, going on his 3rd year now. And that first year he was with the organization, it was a bit of a struggle, it was a bit of an adjustment. And that's all right. If you've ever taken over a business or a project or been ahead of something, you understand that first year you're kind of cleaning up others' messes and you're trying to right some wrongs. And I think he stayed humble in that whole process, and he stayed patient. And I think this year he's really put his stamp on that team. I really believe like his strong traits are he believes in the people he hires, and he gives them the freedom to kind of do their thing. KOC, losing Kirk Cousins for KOC, you could tell there was some heartache there. But, Kwesi kind of circled the wagons there and said, hey, you're the coach. You're the mad genius. You're the one that makes this work. You pull the strings on the offense. I believe in your ability and to be able to improve this team and bring in a quarterback that you see that you can grow and mature. And he did that with Sam Darnold. They drafted J.J. McCarthy, and we know McCarthy's the future, and he's going to have a very good career going forward. He just bad luck, got hurt, in the preseason in week 1 against the Raiders. But bringing in the Brian Flores, moving off Ed Donatel, you just see some of these pieces that he's putting into place. The free agency this year, they didn't get any home run hitters. They let Danielle Hunter go and Kirk Cousins go. Like, those have been 2 corner pieces of this franchise for many years. And he was able to bring in guys like local native and Blake Cashman, who's played phenomenal, and Jonathan Grenard, Stephon Gilmore, and they've drafted Jordan Addison and undrafted. Look at the undrafted free agents, like not only last year in Ivan Pace, but what they've brought in, which I think is going to develop into really strong talent. I think Kwesi needs to be commended. He's very smart, but he's very patient. And he believes in his process. He doesn't go off of it. And if he makes a mistake, he does. He moves on. He moves on from it. So he's patient in a sense of the people he's put in charge. But mistakes, when he makes mistakes that they've made in the draft, he's moved off of that. He's made the hard decisions, not, paid some of these players that were going for premier prices, and we weren't very competitive. He saw the shortcomings last year, but he's cleaned those messes up. But anyway, that's enough about Kwesi. Kudos to him. Year 3, he's putting his stamp of approval. It's only going to get better next year. He's got more money. More money doesn't necessarily mean better players, but he has more money to keep said players or make position moves that he sees fit, whether it be on the offensive line, defensive side of the ball, the running game. He'll be able to make those said moves next year. He'll have more leniency and freedom to do so. But I think Kwesi and definitely, the recruiting group that he's got there, I think they've done a good job in bringing in core talent. And, we've got real depth on this team. And I think he's listened to Brian Flores, what Brian Flores is needed. And, to actually listen to somebody, he's a true transactional leader. He's able to adjust his personality to fit each coach or, each player or scout or whoever. So they go in and, really talk these items out and get the best player that's going to fit the scheme, because it's all about scheme fit. Just because they're expensive doesn't mean they're a top-notch player. It's all about scheme fit. But enough about that for real this time. We'll move on. So the Vikings continue the momentum. They're going out of a huge 2-0, doing great things. Darnold and KOC, KOC said it. He said, you want to see big-time quarterback play? You just saw it against the 49ers in week 2. Then you got the media goons still saying, oh, Sam Darnold this, Sam Darnold that. Now, who are we going to listen to? Somebody that does this for a living, or a clickbait media goon that's just trying to get, as many views off his crazy stuff he says week in and week out? I'm so sick of it. I mean, their mothership used to have really knowledgeable people that could speak smartly on these sports. Now it's all clickbait. It's 100% clickbait. It's a disgrace. But we'll move on. That's my rant for the night. But, for this week to beat the Houston Texans, preparation is going to be key to this victory. Both these teams are 2-0. Both these teams play similar defense and similar offense. It's going to be the details, the small things in this game, the quickness, who's got the answers, turnover situation, all that stuff. Darnold has looked the part. However, he's got to make quick decision-making this week. I think that's paramount in this if we're going to win this game. I think Sam Darnold and the offense have to move the ball. I think the Vikings defense is going to be the tone setter this week. Whichever defense comes out and sets the tone is going to win this game. Hands down, in my opinion. I think the running game has to develop. Houston Texans is really good against the run. They're going to have to continue to pound that rock until they finally break through. And if that's in the third quarter, the fourth quarter, hopefully the first quarter, they need to continue to pound the rock. Do not go away from it. Keep the offense as balanced as possible. By doing so, will allow Sam Darnold to make said throws, just like last week against the Niners. The running game wasn't moving so good in the first half, but they stuck with it. But it was being balanced allows you to open up your offense. Justin Jefferson went out, I think, end of third quarter last week. He's got to have a big game. We need Jalen Naylor to show up. I think there's key pieces that have to show. Viking stars have to show out, especially on offense. They're going to have to show out this week. Aaron Jones, Ty Chandler, the whole bunch, led by Sam Darnold. And that's to include the offensive line. Offensive line play. You have to realize the Houston Texans, we actually have the most sacks as a team. We have 11 sacks over the first 2 weeks. Number 2 is the Houston Texans at 9. We remember Danielle Hunter. We know what he can do. Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill went up against Danielle Hunter, so they know the monster that guy can be. He is a freak. There's no denying that. Al Shahir, the linebacker, he's a good football player too, So defense is going to have to be the tone setter, in my opinion, this week. But, the Vikings are going to have to show out. And let's be honest, this Houston Texans team, they're kind of banged up in the running game. They still have Cam Akers, former Viking. There's a lot of former Vikings and former Texans. Like, these two teams really mirror each other. It's kind of odd. When I was kind of doing the preparation for this, you look at the two teams and you're like, oh, last year he played, there, here, wherever. But it's going to be just a very good football game, in my opinion. But I think we know that the passing game, we know C.J. Stroud, he's the real deal. He won Rookie of the Year last year. The secondary is going to be put to test. I don't know. I mean, we're obviously going to do our disguises, cover 0, cover 1, drop back, cover 2, maybe cover 3 time to time. But C.J. Stroud's the real deal. They've got real deal weapons in the wide receiver core. They have a good running game. They have a lot of pieces in play, and we have to understand that. And the secondary is going to be put to the test. The secondary, though, if our defensive line can continue to eat, that'll help the secondary out. So I think that's going to be the biggest matchup. But, turnovers are going to win this game. Hands down. Whoever wins the turnover battle, I think is going to win this game. And it's all about the mental toughness will be the deciding factor here. The little minute details. And it's up to these players. This is what they do for a living. This team is coached up. These players listen. These players ball out week in and week out. I believe this is an achievable game. I think they can win this game. I think they're favorites. In my opinion, I know they're 2.5 down in Vegas, but in my heart of hearts, I believe this team is very comparable to the Houston Texans. These are two very good football teams. And like I said, week 3, it already feels like playoff football. It really does to me. Week 3, it already feels like playoff football. Coming off a big win last week and going into another big game at home. And they need to ball out. Bottom line, they've got to ball out. You can't allow last week and the distractions to get ahead of you. So, I think let's go over kind of the injuries. Jordan Addison, I think he doesn't play again this week. I think they rest him again. He hasn't practiced all week with the ankle injury. Dallas Turner's knee looks like he hasn't practiced at all really this week. I think he's going to be, actually, he's already came out and said he's out. We lost Nick Muse. He's on the IR. So Johnny Munt, I don't know if they're going to call up Robert Tonyan or N'Keal Harry. I would assume it'd be Robert Tonyan that would get the call up to replace Nick Muse. Jefferson looks like he'll be a go. He's limited, and so is Ivan Pace Jr. Both have quad injuries. They've been limited at practice. I fully see them going. Really, the injury report for both teams is pretty significant, but I assume all the players are going to play. O'Neal, Van Ginkel, Bradbury, Ingram, Jalen Naylor, they all showed up. They're all, full participants or limited. I'm expecting them all to play. On the Texans side of the ball, their running game's pretty beat up right now. Joe Mixon, he took that injury, kind of like what Jordan Addison took, the hip drop tackle, and both of them are dealing with ankle injuries, so I expect Joe Mixon to be out this week. He hasn't practiced. Then his backup, Dameon Pierce, had a pretty breakout year in 2022, but didn't really do much last year. He's dealing with a hamstring injury. He hasn't practiced all week. I assume he's going to be out. And then kind of some big names that are, they've been limited, but kind of keep an eye on is Nico Collins, the wide receiver. He's dealing with a hip foot injury, so he's kind of got a couple things going on there. He looked kind of gingerly in practice today. I'm assuming he's going to be a full go. They see this game like we do. This is playoff-style football right now. They're not going to sleep on us. And then Al Shahir's dealing with a shin. He's been limited all week as well. Expect him to be a full go. I think we need to take this game into context, kind of like the San Francisco game. Let's be honest. I mean, I remember back in the summer when we were supposed to lose the first 5 games of the year, and we're already 2-0. So this, again, is not another make-or-break game. This is a winnable game in my heart of hearts. I believe it. I predict the Vikings are going to win this game 24-23. It's going to come down to the bitter end. Let's get Will Reichard to kick a game-winning field goal, 57 yards, something crazy. Let's go nuts. I'm all about some Will Reichard. Pretty funny. I've seen on social media, he's some of the local media and influencers have kind of dubbed him the number 1 player in the top 100. It's kind of funny. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. It's pretty good stuff. But I think that both teams are comparable. Feels like football playoff. We're in September, week 3. It's a big game for the Vikings. Don't want to sleep on them. Don't feel we're going to sleep on them. We got to come in this game mentally prepared, and ready to go. Attention to detail. Hold on to the football. Play tough nose football. This game's going to be played in the trenches, I believe, as well. Defensive line, offensive line, both sides of the ball. Anyway, hope you liked the video. Please hit the like or subscribe button. Until next time.